welcome to the Kingdom Doers Podcast. And today we have Hollie Whaley with KNHLifeCoaching.com. And Hollie is here to share with us her business. It's a Christian life coaching and business coaching business. And thank you so much, Hollie, for being here. We're really happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be with you.
Yeah, Hollie, I'm looking and I see you help women business owners unlock their potential when you do it through Christian coaching. Tell us more about that, specifically what you do and how you help.
Yeah, sure. So what I do is I love to help business women to think bigger so that they can really build and scale their business and really find the hidden potential that God has placed inside of them. And when that unlocks, it's empowering and it's powerful to watch.
Wow.
And so how do you do that? How do you help them find the potential that God has put inside of them?
Yeah, so I operate with a system that God has just kind of given me to work with them to really find their authentic self. And in finding their authentic self and doing certain exercises, asking the right questions, then we're able to really help them hone in on what are their challenges in really building their business, because a lot of women suffer with imposter syndrome. And so really eliminating what, they hear, the record they hear in their head versus what God says about them and what God says about their business. So
Love it. Yeah, you talk about that a lot in your work as well, helping people with imposter syndrome and the messages in their head.
Yeah, and I think it's so powerful. I was telling you in the pre-show how when God called me to turn my life coaching business, my secular coaching business into a Christian faith-based coaching business, I freaked out. And I really, resisted it. I was like, really, God, but do I have to do that? And the one thing I heard him tell me in prayer, because I was really having this argument, how, like we always think we're going to win these ones. But I was really having this argument, but how come I can't just, continue business as usual? And I just, can grow my own faith in my personal life and just continue my work. And he said, because your work is in direct conflict with my truth. You're teaching people to be self-reliant. And then you're over here thinking, with your belief that you have to rely on me. So that's not going to work. And I just thought, wow, that's okay. That totally convicted me. And right then and there, I switched it, changed it, but I did it. And one thing I asked him was, please, God, send me people who are doing something like this, who you've also called to do on this path. And I had I didn't know anybody at the time who was doing Christian life coaching, never heard anyone doing it. And all of a sudden now through this podcast, people are coming out of the woodworks and I'm like, yes, because we're all really on this mission, aren't we? To do the same thing. We're all doing God's work. There's no competition. We're all in it as a team and to help people out. So I love that, I love what you're doing and how you've stepped out to help women to really let go of the lies that they're telling themselves and the lies the enemy has told them about who they are, and to really step out in their faith in their business.
I find that women a lot of times too, because we've been, particularly in the corporate arena, we've been told how to act, what to say, what's politically correct, how we should respond to certain things. I've learned that when we really take on the identity of Christ, we have a different authority when we walk in rooms. And because we walk in the authority of Christ in those rooms, it gives us the confidence to really do and say what he tells us. And I really love working with women to have them shatter those boundaries that we've put up based on what corporate has told us we should act and look and do right? It's just really being able to embrace those pieces and even bring God into the workplace.
Yeah. Wow.
That'll preach right there. Because you are walking in the authority of Christ, you just have a totally different mindset and worldview when you walk into a room. If I'm ever asked to preach on a Women's Day, I might have to go ahead and quote you. And you know what? As a pastor, there's this one verse that we hear often. It says that the harvest is ripe and the laborers are few. So pray to the Lord a harvest for laborers. And as a pastor, you get in this mindset of like, oh, he's talking to us, he's talking to pastors, but even you two as well. Like, there was a work to be done, and there was such a ripe harvest, and you helping people realize that how they walk in the authority of Christ and pushing back what the corporate world has told them, but not just that, even society, and all of these other places. And it does help people to see themselves as Christ sees them. And I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we talk about the harvest, a lot of times, my husband and I both are pastors as well, right? So I
Okay.
think that when we talk about the harvest, a lot of times we look at it one dimensional. But one thing I love to do is really look at it holistically and say, if we're
Mm,
not in the marketplace,
mm.
how will we ever reap that harvest? And
Everywhere,
how
yeah.
will we ever reap the harvest in certain pockets if
Mm,
we're not sending people into those spaces? And
mm,
Hmm.
so,
Wow.
that is so critical. Even Paul, he decided to continue to be a tent maker so he could
mhm,
be with the people. So,
Mm.
yeah.
he was
Yeah.
a marketplace minister, then
Mm,
bringing them to Christ. And I think we think it has to be one or the other. We a
mhm,
lot of times don't look at the crossover of what that really means in the body of Christ.
yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
Wow, that's so good. So, Holly, how did you get to this place where you're at now in the kind of coaching business that you have? What was your journey like getting here, and when did you decide to do this?
So I've been in ministry for a very, very long time, and I worked in corporate for over 25 years in the global corporate arena. So I've worked
Mhm.
in various countries and working with teams around the world, building and just supporting teams globally. And there was always a piece missing. And I think I thought that if I went the road of becoming a pastor and doing that, my husband and I launched a church, right? So
Oh,
that's like launching a business.
yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
Right? Like you
That's a
got a
whole,
lot of different
Oh,
dynamics there, but um
yes.
I think I thought like that would fulfill something in me, and I realized that my greatest pulpit was really my life
Mm,
and just the people that interacted with me on a regular basis. And
mm,
so I
wow.
think from a coaching perspective, I've coached for a very long time. Most of my career has been in management positions, leading large global teams. I've been really blessed to be able to see people's potential and kind of draw that out of them, even early in my career. Before I
Mm,
could articulate what was happening, God just had favored me in that way. And so as I went through my journey, when COVID actually, when we faced the pandemic, I told my husband I'm starting my coaching business.
wow.
Both of us had been certified as life coaches way before the pandemic. And
Mm,
I said, I need to do something because I worked in the travel industry. And
mm,
so a lot of my clients were big pharmaceutical companies, which they were okay, but the travel industry stopped.
mm,
And
uh,
so it was like, what do we do if my name is on the list of the 95+% that were furloughing? What
mm,
happens
mm,
to my family? And
mm,
so I really sat, and God said to me, I was sitting in my office, I was sitting here and I was saying, Lord, what do I do if this happens? And he says, everything you need is in the house.
mm,
And I
mm.
thought, well,
mm.
that's great. Thanks. Could you give me
Wow.
a pure scripture? Like I need to know what is in the house,
So you
right?
had a little argument as well.
Right.
It
Like,
wasn't just
come
me.
on,
Okay.
Lord, what is it?
Yeah.
And I happened to scan my office as having this conversation with God, and I see my business. I have an MBA. So I saw my degree and my coaching certificate sitting next to each other. And I
Wow.
said, okay, I'm going to start my business. And I told my
Wow.
husband, and he was like, okay, whatever. I think he was just like, whatever makes you happy,
Yeah.
right.
Okay,
And
sure.
Sometimes we're guilty of that. Yeah.
yeah, he's like, whatever. We've
Sure,
got
honey.
too much going on right now. Just whatever you
Right,
want to
right.
do.
Just do what you need to
Um,
do.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I then started working. I wanted to help people. I just wanted to do life coaching. I was sick of business, terrified of what was happening in corporate at the time. And everybody that came to me wanted to either start a business or they needed to pivot their business because of the pandemic.
Ah,
And I
wow.
said to them, "What? But I want to help you with your life."
Uh-huh.
Because that's what I'm called to do. And they were like, okay, but by helping us with our business, you're helping us with our life. Can you
That's
please
true.
help
Yeah.
us?
Mm,
And I said,
amazing.
wow, that's so interesting
Hmm.
that God would actually let me marry my passion for people and business together and do
Ah,
something for his kingdom. Like that just, it was like this epiphany moment that I was like, I should
wow.
have been doing this all along, but
Yeah.
he
Amazing.
he allowed me
Wasn't
to
the
do.
right timing.
I was, and
Yeah.
I did realize a lot when I'm dealing with business, I am doing life coaching a lot, right? We have to talk
Yes.
about the mindset and we have to do some of the work outside of just the business components and really helping them analyze parts of their business. That
Hmm.
coaching piece is the life coaching. So I get to do both.
That's
So
amazing. Yeah, it's so true because you can have all the systems in place, but if you don't feel you're good enough, if you don't feel you're worthy, if you feel like you're an imposter and all those things, you can have all the systems in place that you want, but it's not going to actually be activated, right? Nothing's going to go. So yeah, so much is in your mindset and they are both, right? Your business, working on your business helps your life and working on your life helps your business. So yeah, that's great. An amazing story.
love
Yeah.
that. I love what you said. Working your life helps your business, and working your business helps your life. So that's
Life,
powerful.
yeah.
You said something, and I already said earlier that I'll preach, but you said something else I need to write down because you said that God told you that your biggest pulpit are the people that you're interacting with in your everyday life. And it's like, maybe, Holly, are you suggesting that, yes, while it's effective to invite our friends to church, to your small group, you're also called to just minister where you are in the marketplace? And there are probably people here who never see themselves standing behind a quote unquote pulpit, who would never stand up to preach a sermon. However, they have an opportunity right where they already are. In fact, right where they need to be. They have to pay their bills and they have to go to work, but they have an opportunity to be right where they are and do the work of the harvest is ripe and pull people in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at least me growing up in church, right? I grew up in church all my life. And I think there was a missed opportunity where we were taught if you want to work for God, it looks this way.
Yes.
Mm,
Versus saying we're equipping you as a woman of God to serve God everywhere. And
mhm.
I've come to realize that some of the greatest messages ever that I've preached has been how I've lived my life, and people have
Mm,
responded accordingly to that.
that's
And
so
it's
powerful.
been the opportunity that I'm sitting in an office and somebody gets a cancer diagnosis and I'm able to pray with them and they've
Mhm.
never heard the gospel, right?
Wow.
Or they have, but nobody's ever treated them with respect. They have, this bad memory of what church looked like. And so
Mhm.
I think we have to really shift the narrative that all of us, the Bible says that we are all called to minister.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so somewhere at least when I was growing up, that was lost. The
Mhm.
ones that ministered were in the pulpit.
Mhm.
And yet I was called to minister. And I think about the times I missed opportunities because I felt like I had to have two separate lives. And
Yes.
really by equipping people properly and educating them and empowering them. So as a pastor, my greatest joy is empowering women that
Mm.
no, share the gospel in the workplace. Tell
Yeah.
people about Jesus. Give them a hug. Love on people. Let them know that you're a Christian. Like we should not be ashamed of that. And
Yes.
so I really get passionate about that.
Mm.
Yeah, I love
You
that.
know what you said rings true. So many people were taught if you want to minister, that's the place you work. But Paul says in Ephesians 4:12, he said, the work of the pastors and the leaders is to equip the members to build up the church and to do the work. And so a lot of us look at the pastors to do the work versus the pastors to equip you to do the work. And what better place to do it than where you're at? So maybe we are challenging someone who's sitting and listening to this, maybe on their way to work or just getting home from work and you ain't done no ministry at work. It's time to get busy at work.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think we have to do that. And then you find a fulfillment in your life you didn't realize
Mhm.
because now you're able to not just be poured into, but to pour out.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And there is something to that, being able to come into anywhere you go as a whole person, your whole spiritual, your mind, your body, everything together, not separating your spiritual from your work life, because I've mentioned this before on other episodes, but we've had, I saw a study that was about depression in people who were believers, who were struggling with this back and forth. They were having to live in the world, and then they had to go and be in their spiritual world outside of work, and they had to separate the two, and they couldn't find a way to come together as a whole person. So for example, it was an attorney who thought he couldn't be Christian and be an attorney because he had to learn how to lie and cheat people and all this stuff. But with this counselor, who was a Christian counselor, spoke to this person and said, there are ways you could show up in your workplace as a Christian. Maybe you don't lie. Maybe you do show up with honesty. Maybe you actually care and show your care towards people. And that's what's going to help you set yourself apart
Wow.
from the others and make actually a difference. And as soon as that person got that click, that aha moment, his life came together and he was like, okay, I don't have to quit. I don't have to, go be a preacher. I could just do my work, but incorporate my faith in my work. And that's how you're, describing how we can mesh those two together with, like, even like you said, just asking for someone who needs prayer, like, even if non-believers. I think that's the biggest way you could show up as a Christian, is just seeing someone who's on their worst moment in life. I got a cancer diagnosis and I will take anything, right? I need prayer. That's the time when you say, hey, can I pray for you? So I really like how you gave those examples of just how you can show up just as a Christian in any place in the marketplace.
I find that very interesting about that study because working with women a lot, particularly in the business side of it, a lot of them feel unfulfilled. Like they're constantly looking for their purpose. Like,
Mm,
what's my purpose? What's my purpose? And I'm like, you should be working in your purpose. Like, what do
yeah.
you like to do? Right. And I have to take a step back and say to people, your purpose, the reason you were created was to worship God, period. That's
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
That it's that simple.
Yeah.
That's your purpose. Now
Yeah.
he's gifted you and given you talents and gifts to explore and use and passions that you want to be passionate about.
Mhm.
And I think that when we make people feel like it has to be, the two worlds like that, then they don't feel that fulfillment
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
that they're fulfilling their purpose because our purpose is to share the gospel, worship
Mhm.
God, and
Mhm.
really it's that simple.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Now, looking at your website, I see that you have business coaching and then you also have the Business Academy. Tell us more about those two and whether the differences between the two are.
Sure. So the business coaching is really where I do group coaching, one-on-one coaching with small business owners to really help them identify processes where that they can find efficiencies, help them
Mhm.
grow their business beyond where they're at. I find that a lot of small business owners work in their business, not on their business.
Yes,
So
yes,
therefore,
yes,
they never
yes.
expand, right,
Yeah.
beyond the small piece. And so I help them to get out of that box and help
Mm.
them in that way. The Business Academy, there are some overlapping pieces to that, but really the Business Academy is for also for aspiring entrepreneurs that want to learn how to design, build, and launch a business. So
Okay.
I have a course that I offer to them. I wrote a book, I have a workbook that really helps them to design, which is really looking at your vision, your mission. All of it
Mhm.
is Christ centered. And then looking at how to build your business. How are you going to financially sustain it? Do you LLC, sole proprietor, S
Mm.
corp? What does it look like?
Okay.
Insurance. What type of insurance?
Nice.
All of the non-fun stuff that most people don't think about when they're really building out their business and what that looks like. And then we do launch, which is where the fun stuff comes in. You get to do your
Mm.
branding and your website and marketing. I love marketing and sales. So, we talk a lot about the marketing piece, the sales piece, and then really launching their business and making sure that it's on a sure foundation.
Mm.
Because everything God did was very intentional. But what we do when we build a business is not most of the
Mhm.
time. I won't say not
Right.
Mm.
always, right? But some
Yeah.
people, they are like, oh, I want to start a business because I just don't want to work for anybody anymore. And that's
Yeah.
probably not the best reason to do it, right?
Mhm.
Or they'll say, oh, look at my cute little logo, and that's beautiful. But have you really considered all of the pieces that go into that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started building the academy for that.
I
Mm.
love
So
that.
Holly, sounds like you're a one-stop shop for a woman who has this dream or this idea, something that God planted in you to help them, to launch it, to get it going, insurance, LLC. Like that's so many things that I know, like us as business owners, and maybe even other business owners remembered wrestling through or going through, but you're here to help guide them and just show them those pieces. And I know just for the pushback, when you get a Christian audience, you get all types. And I know there are the folks out there who are like, women shouldn't be starting businesses and what are you doing and this and that and because I think about that woman in Proverbs 31 and every man wants a Proverbs 31 woman, but it talks about how she was entrepreneurial, how she bought a field, how she sold the garments that she made. And I just love that you too, babe, how you are just helping women be that virtuous woman in all aspects as the Bible reads.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
you're
Yeah.
also helping women to have that peace of mind as well, to not feel so overwhelmed. Because I gotta say, there was this whole trend going on about 10 years ago, this whole boss babe, like boss woman, hashtag boss lady going on, where we can have it all, you can do it all, you can have it all. And what actually I read an article about this recently, that women are starting to realize that that just caused them to burn out, and they realize, oh, I can't do it all. And I think we have to be honest with, where do we need help? And this is where, someone like you, Holly, it's stepping in to saying, hey, let me help you with that load. Let me help take some of these things off of your plate. And you can focus on what you do really well. And I'll help you with all the back end stuff. I think that is like so valuable to have. And I wish I had you 10 years ago when I was starting my business to do it
Yeah,
the
it's
hard way.
hard. It's a hard process, and people don't think about that. They kind of feel like, oh, this is going to be easy. And I do hear a lot women, shouldn't be doing certain things, or
Mm,
they shouldn't take certain roles. But at the end of the day, if you are a woman business owner, the government thinks that's pretty important. They like to send you
yes.
business, and they like to give tax cuts to corporations that partner with you as a woman-owned business. And so I
Mhm.
think it's important that we show up and we do what, we're called to do even in the workplace. So
Yeah, definitely. So what would be one thing, or maybe one tip that you can give to women who are maybe on the fence about starting a business? Maybe they're thinking, well, maybe they actually even have a strong conviction that God is calling them to do something, but they're not quite taking that next step forward. What would you suggest that those women who are in that place do to kind of help themselves break through that, and move on and move toward that goal?
Yeah, I would say if you really feel like God is calling you to that and you know that it's an area that maybe you don't feel as educated in, you don't feel like you're equipped or you have the tools. I mean, there are resources out there. There's people out there. You can call me. I do free consultations. I would love to chat with you and just share knowledge. But I would say go and look at Peter getting out of the
Mm.
boat.
Oh,
Because in the word of God, when God was talking about, I mean, as Jesus called him, he said, if you are, God, then call me out. If you're Jesus, and Jesus said, come, and he got out of the boat. He didn't know he
Mhm.
could walk on water.
mm-hmm.
That's not something that anybody can do. None of us can walk on water, right? But something
Right.
Mhm.
supernaturally happened when he said yes. And
Mhm.
so I would
Mhm.
encourage you to say yes and then let God do the supernatural in helping you to really build that, because
Mhm.
you may feel like I can't do it on my own. And you're right, you can't. But God
Yeah.
can give you that supernatural to your natural, and then you'll see what God can build with you.
Mhm.
Such good wisdom. I love that. And yeah, there's so many times in the Bible where God just says, take that first step, right? Even
Mhm.
the woman with the bleeding issue, he said, because of your faith, you're healed, right? The man who wanted to who was on the mat, who couldn't walk. Jesus said, do you want to walk? Right? Get up and walk. Like it always took that action, that first step, and then God did the rest. So I really like that example with Peter as well. Like, yeah, if you told me that I could go walk on water, I would say, yeah, right. But if Jesus said to walk, take that step and you just obey, then he leads the way. So that's really, really powerful.
Um,
Yeah. I
I
love
heard
it.
something this weekend that somebody had said, if you look at the miracles that Jesus did in the Bible, he never prayed before. He gave
Mhm.
instruction.
Mm.
Mm.
And so if he's giving you instruction, that's because a miracle is to take
Mhm.
place. So
Wow.
that is a powerful way to remember to just get out of the boat, right?
Mhm.
Wow.
Activate your faith in doing that because God wants to do a miracle.
Oh, that's so good. I never thought about that, but yeah, you're right.
Mhm.
He always gave instruction. It gave me goosebumps. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it makes me think, it convicted me. Okay, listen, right?
Yeah.
He's telling you,
Right. I know,
follow
me
the
too.
instruction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't have those arguments that we have, right?
Yeah. I would even push back and challenge and say maybe we need to change our mindset, because you said when God gave instructions and people did it, something supernatural happened. But we were designed to follow God. So maybe it's more like when Peter stepped out of the boat and followed God, the natural thing was happening. And every time we obey God, the natural thing of God leading us and guiding us and open doors and blesses us happening. So let's stop looking at obeying God as supernatural and say, I naturally need to be obeying God.
Oh, I love that. That is so powerful. Yes, I love that.
Wow,
Yeah.
never thought about that.
Let me
I
get you out
love
of here, or let us get you out of here, Holly, with these two last questions. Number one, who is your ideal person? Who should be reaching out of everyone listening today? Who should be looking for Holly? And then number two, where do they find you?
So I am working with women that are small business owners, and it doesn't matter how small. So most coaches, a lot of business coaches start with $1 million in sales. I will work with you from a concept all the way through. So
All right.
if you are a small business owner, I want to work with you. I love that. I work with all industries.
Okay.
And so I just really enjoy working with women that are ready to build their business and scale their business. And you can find me at www.holliewhaley.com, or you can find me at khlifecoaching.com.
Okay.
And certainly we have a coaching firm. So if you are in need of a coach, maybe not a business coach, but maybe you want a career coach, we have individuals that work for us. We're all trauma informed Christian life coaches.
Nice,
So
nice.
we're ready to serve you when you're ready.
Wow, really great. So trauma informed coaches is really, really powerful. And also working with businesses from concept to very successful. That's also really important because there are so many business coaches out there who are like, as you said, oh, I only work with people making 2 million or up. And then it leaves out these people who are like, wait, I'm just starting out. So that's really great to know. So we will link your website links in our description. But definitely check out Hollie Whaley, holliewhaley.com, and khlifecoaching.com as well. So thank you, Hollie, so much for being here and sharing your wisdom and all that you're doing and helping women out there with just getting their dreams, their gifts out in the world and what God's called them to do. So may you be blessed in your business and all those that you help.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.